Welcome back to the JORDEE podcast. This is Jordan, and thank you for tuning in to this episode. And today we're gonna go over 5 short stories from Reddit. 5 short scary stories from Reddit. Hopefully they're scary. But without further ado, let's get into it. Story number 1. Timekeeper. He had been given the watch on his 10th birthday. It was an ordinary gray plastic wristwatch in every respect except the fact that it was counting down. That is all of the time you have left in the world, son. Use it wisely. And indeed he did. As the watch ticked away, the boy, now a man, lived life to the fullest. He climbed mountains and swam oceans. He talked and laughed and lived and loved. The man was never afraid, for he knew exactly how much time he had left. Eventually, the watch began its final countdown. The man stood looking over everything he had done, everything he had built. 5. He shook hands with his old business partner, the man who had been his friend and confidant. 4. His dog came and licked his hand, earning a pat on the head for its companionship. 3. He hugged his son, knowing that he had been a great father. 2. He kissed his wife on the forehead one last time. 1. The old man smiled and closed his eyes. But nothing happened. The watch beeped once and turned off. The man stood standing there, very much alive. You would think that in the moment he would have been overjoyed. Instead, for the first time in his life, the man was scared. Story number 2. There's no reason to be afraid. When my sister Betsy and I were kids, our family lived for a while in a charming old farmhouse. We loved exploring its dusty corners and climbing the apple tree in the backyard. But our favorite thing was the ghost. We called her Mother because she seemed so kind and nurturing. Some mornings, Betsy and I would wake up, and on each of our nightstands, we'd find a cup that hadn't been there the night before. Mother had left them there, worried that we'd get thirsty during the night. We just wanted to meet her, and she just wanted to take care of us. Among the house's original furnishings was an antique wooden chair, which we kept against the back wall of the living room. Whenever we were preoccupied watching TV or playing a game, Mother would inch that chair forward across the room toward us. Sometimes she'd manage to move it all the way to the center of the room. We always felt sad putting it back against the wall. Mother just wanted to be near us. Years later, long after we'd moved out, I found an old newspaper article about the farmhouse's original occupant, a widow. She'd murdered 2 children by giving them each a cup of poisoned milk before bed. Then she'd hang herself. The article included a photo of the farmhouse's living room, with a woman's body hanging from a beam. Beneath her, knocked over, was the old wooden chair placed exactly in the center of the room. Story number 3. hell. There was no pearly gate. The only reason I knew I was in a cave was because I had just passed the entrance. The rock wall against I just knew where I was. I knew this was it. This was what religion talked about. What all men feared. I had just entered the gate to hell. I felt the presence of the cave as if it was a living, breathing creature. The stench of rotten flesh overwhelmed me. Then there was a voice. It came from inside and all around. Welcome. Who are you? I asked, trying to keep my composure. You know, the thing answered. I did know. You're the devil. I stuttered, quickly losing my composure. Why me? I lived as good as I could. The silence took over the space as my words died out. It seemed like an hour before a response came. What did you expect? The voice was penetrating but patient. I don't know. I never believed any of this. I uttered, is that why I'm here? Silence. I continued. They say the greatest trick you ever pulled was convincing the world you don't exist. No. The greatest trick I ever pulled was convincing the world that there was an alternative. There is no God? I shivered. And silence. Silence felt like an eternity. And then the cave trembled with the words, I am God. Story number 4. The Accident. It was 1 a.m., and Guy Halverston sat in his dark living room. He hadn't moved in over an hour. The accident earlier that evening kept playing over and over in his mind. The light turned red, but he was in a hurry and accelerated. An orange blur came from his right, and in a split second was a violent jolt. The bicyclist rolled across the hood and fell out of sight on the pavement. Horns blared angrily and he panicked, stepping on the gas and streaking away from the chaos in the darkness, shaken and keeping an eye on his rearview mirror until he got home. Why did you run, you idiot? He never committed a crime before this and punished himself by imagining years in jail, his career gone, his family gone, his future gone. Why not just go to the police right now? You can afford a lawyer. Then someone tapped on the front door and his world suddenly crumbled away beneath him. They found me. There was nothing he could do but answer it. Running would only make things worse. His body trembling, he got up, went to the door, and opened it. A police officer stood under the porch light. "Mr. Halverson?" asked the grim officer. He let out a deafening sigh. "Yes. Let me..." "I am sorry. I'm so terribly sorry, Mr. Halverson. But I'm afraid I have some bad news. Your son's bike was struck by a hit-and-run driver this evening. He died at the scene. I'm so sorry for your loss." Story number 5. Hands. The doctors pulled the stethoscope ear tips out and hung the device around his neck. "Mr. Weatherby, all of your tests have come back negative, and my examination shows nothing abnormal." Adam knew what was coming next. "I'm not crazy, doctor. I'm sorry, but there's no physical reason why you occasionally lose control of your hands. A psychologist could possibly help. I don't need therapy. I need answers." "They seem to have a life of their own. I can't hold a job. I'm under investigation for assault. I almost killed my neighbor. This can't go on. I'll try anything at this point." After 2 weeks on a new medication, Adam saw no progress and grew increasingly depressed. He was convinced that despite what the doctors said, it was not a psychological problem. That night, a frustrated and angry Adam sat in a chair and drank bourbon. Drunk and hopeless, he stumbled to the garage and started the table saw. Then slowly lowered his wrist towards the screaming blade. Detective Armstrong entered the garage where several uniformed officers stood over the blood-soaked body. "So what do we got?" he asked, taking in the blood-spattered scene. "This is a weird one, Detective." "How so?" "Take a look at the body. He apparently chopped off his hands with the table saw and bled to death." Armstrong knelt down. "And?" he replied. And the officer took a moment and said, "We can't find his hands anywhere." All right, so those are the 5 short, scary stories from Reddit for this week. Actually, I like these stories a lot. These are pretty good stories. And I think there will probably be 2 or 3 more of these short scary story series until we go into a longer story. And I think by then, Yana will be back. But yeah, this is fun. If you haven't yet, you can follow us at the JORDEE Podcast here on Spotify, or you could follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube. And we just hope that you enjoyed these stories. At least this was something you could listen to doing whatever you're doing. I don't know, jogging or working out or like on your way to somewhere. But again, thank you for listening to this podcast. We will keep working on it, and things get better over time. But thank you so much, and until next time, this is Jordan, and see you later. Bye-bye.